Alex and Kate were the kind of couple everyone looked up to, at least at the beginning. Their love story was the perfect blend of youthful romance and whirlwind adventure. They met at a summer barbecue 2 years ago, where Alex's calm demeanor was the perfect contrast to Kate's vibrant emotional energy. Within a year, they were married and excited to start their life together. Now, just a year and a half later, things felt different. Alex was a natural calm and caring man who worked long hours at a local accounting firm. Alex worked at an accounting firm. He was thoughtful, leaving notes on the fridge or planning quiet evenings for them. He did this because he wanted to make her happy. But lately, nothing he did seemed to make her happy. Kate was always the fiery and impulsive one. She started picking fights over things Alex found baffling. One evening, she snapped at him as they were preparing dinner. She said, "You don't care about me anymore." Alex sighed and said, "I live with you. He kept his voice steady. "Right, so every day matters," but Kate wouldn't let it go. "If you really love me, you'd want to see everything I post. Why don't you want to be involved in my life?" Another time, it was his friends who promised to spend time with me. She accused him after he mentioned a Saturday golf game with his buddies, but it was clear they were more important than I was. Alex had tried reasoning with her, explaining that a little space for hobbies and friends was normal, but his words only seemed to make her more annoyed. Even trivial things like forgetting to take out the trash became accusations of sabotage. "You're doing it on purpose just to annoy me," she said. Then there was the most hurtful claim of all, "Are you cheating on me?" "Alex, is that why you're acting so distant?" The accusation stung, not because they were true, but because they were so far from reality. Alex was exhausted from trying to prove his innocence when he hadn't done anything wrong. He offered solutions. Alex suggested spending weekends away together and even brought up the idea of couples counseling, but Kate dismissed his efforts with a wave of her hand, saying everything was fine. When the fights got too heated, Kate would storm out, either heading to her sister's or meeting up with her friends. Alex found himself alone in their too-quiet home, wondering where their happiness had gone. This cycle repeated so often it felt like a rhythm Alex couldn't break. Alex thought things were settling down, but Kate would bring up divorce during a heated moment. "Maybe we're not meant to be," she'd say tearfully, leaving Alex to wonder if she truly meant it. By the next morning, it was as if nothing had happened, and life would return to its tense version of normal. Alex was a patient man by nature, but the emotional swings were wearing him down. He loved Kate and wanted to fight for their marriage, but lately, he felt like he was fighting alone. The argument started like all the others. Other minor issues quickly escalated. This time, it was about Alex forgetting to fix a loose hinge on the cabinet door for Kate. It was a symptom of something bigger. "You never listen to me, Alex," she exclaimed, her voice sharp and trembling. Alex, sitting at the edge of their worn couch, rubbed his temples and tried to stay calm. "Kate, it's not that I don't listen. It's just been a busy week. I'll take care of it tomorrow. I promise." "That's always your answer," Kate shot back, pacing the room. "Maybe I'm tired of waiting for tomorrow, maybe I'm tired of this whole thing." "Kate, stop," Alex said firmly, standing up. "This isn't about a hinge, is it? You're upset, but you're not even giving me a chance to make things better." The word divorce hung in the air between them, unspoken but looming like a dark cloud. Alex hated how often it had come up recently, like an invisible weapon Kate carried, ready to strike. "Strike," he took a deep breath, trying to steady his voice. "Look, I love you, but we can't keep living like this. We need help." It was the first time in weeks that Kate seemed to hesitate. Her usual fire dimmed slightly, and her shoulders sagged. She asked, her tone uncertain, "You think we need therapy?" Alex replied gently, "I think a family psychologist could help us figure out how to communicate better. We both need to understand what's happening here." Kate looked down. Biting her lip, Kate said softly, "Maybe you're right." She paused, but added, "I don't know if I'm ready for that yet." "Then what are you ready for?" Alex asked, his voice laced with exhaustion and hope. Kate's face brightened suddenly, as if a light bulb had gone off. I need a break, she said, almost giddy. I could go with Megan and Isabella on a girls' trip to Europe. It would give me a fresh perspective. Megan and Isabella have been talking about it for months. I could go with them, take some time to think, clear my head. Alex blinked, caught off guard. A trip to Europe? Now? Why not? Kate said, her tone turning insistent. It's a little dream of mine to see Paris, Rome, Barcelona. This could be the reset I need. We need the idea made. Alex was uneasy. Distance wasn't what he'd had in mind, but he wanted to support Kate. If it meant saving their marriage, how long would you be gone? He asked. Just 12 days, Kate said, quickly. That's not so long, is it? I'll keep in touch, I promise, Alex said. He frowned, feeling conflicted. Do you think this will help? Kate nodded, her smile bright but unsteady. I do, and I think it'll help you too. We've been too close, suffocating each other. Some space might do us good. Despite his reservations, Alex agreed. Maybe Kate was right. A short break could help them both. Step back and see things more clearly. It wasn't easy for him to say yes, but he wanted to show her that he trusted her. In the days before she left, Kate was busy making preparations. She was excited about the places she was going to visit and the sights she was going to see. Megan and Isabella called frequently to plan their itinerary and giggled like teenagers. Alex, meanwhile, watched from the sidelines, feeling increasingly anxious with every passing day. On the morning of her departure, Alex offered to drive Kate to the airport, but she declined. I need to do this alone, she said, avoiding his gaze. It's not that I don't want you there, but I just need space. I don't want you there, but I just need space, Alex. He paused, but then agreed, though he wasn't happy about it. Standing by the door with her suitcase in hand, Kate turned to him and smiled a bright, almost carefree smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. This will be good for us, she said. Trust me. Alex forced a smile, hiding the doubt in his chest. I hope so, he replied. Just keep in touch, okay? I will. She promised, leaning in to kiss him on the cheek. Then she gave him a little kiss on the cheek and was gone, leaving the house eerily quiet in her absence. Alex stood by the window watching the car pull away, feeling heavy-hearted and uneasy. Just 12 days, he thought to himself. It'll fly by before you find out what happens next. Please subscribe to the channel. At first, Alex tried to convince himself that everything was fine. On the first 2 days of Kate's trip, she responded to his texts, but her replies were short and distant, unlike her usual self. Kate, he knew, had been brief in her replies when he asked how she was enjoying Europe. She'd said it was fine or busy, and there were no exclamation points or enthusiasm in her words. It was as if she were checking a box rather than sharing her experiences with him. By the third day, her silence stretched, and his messages went unread, and his calls unanswered. Alex told himself she was probably overwhelmed with sightseeing and simply didn't have time to check in, but by the 5th day, unease settled into his chest. To take his mind off things, Alex turned to social media. Kate had been posting photos of famous landmarks, cute cafes, and pretty streets. They were lovely, but they felt a bit fake. There wasn't a single selfie or candid shot of the girls having fun. Alex thought that was strange, but he put it down to overthinking. Maybe Kate was just trying to live in the moment. His curiosity got the better of him, though, and he checked Megan's and Isabella's profiles. Megan was usually active on social media. Isabella had been unusually quiet, with only a couple of posts in the first few days. Megan, on the other hand, had shared more. One photo in particular made Alex pause. It was a group shot of a bustling piazza at sunset. Megan and Isabella were posing together with wide smiles. But in the corner of the frame, cropped hastily, were the unmistakable hands of 2 men. Alex's stomach knotted. He reasoned with himself. They're in Europe. They probably met people. It doesn't mean anything, he told himself, trying to calm his growing unease. He was determined to put his suspicions to rest. Alex dug deep, scrolling through Isabella's profile. After some effort, he stumbled across a recently uploaded video. His heart pounded as he pressed play. It was shaky, clearly taken in a lively restaurant. The camera panned across a table where all three women were seated with three men. The laughter and clinking glasses were unmistakable. Alex froze. He couldn't make out the background, but he knew it was Kate. She was sitting next to a tall man with dark hair, leaning towards him as they shared a laugh. Megan and Isabella were similarly paired, their expressions light and carefree. Before he could process the image fully, the video disappeared. Isabella had deleted it. His hands trembled as he took a screenshot from his phone's gallery, preserving the moment he could no longer ignore. He stared at the screenshot for hours. It didn't prove anything, but it told him enough. Kate hadn't just gone on a girl's trip, she was hiding something. And her silence, now stretching into its fourth day, was deafening. By the end of the third day, Alex had given up texting or calling. The messages he left unread were small humiliations he could no longer endure. Instead, he resolved himself to a harsh truth: this wasn't working. Whatever Kate was doing, wherever she was, it had become clear that she wasn't interested in maintaining their marriage. His thoughts turned to the future. He loved Kate, but he couldn't ignore her behavior, her lies, her avoidance, and her secrecy. It was all too much. He began mentally preparing for a divorce, imagining the conversation they'd have when she returned. Alex promised himself he'd be calm, collected, and civil. He wanted closure, not chaos. But just as he began to steel himself for that moment, something strange happened on the 8th day. Kate's social media came alive again. Photos of new cities and landmarks appeared bright, vibrant snapshots of her adventure, but Megan and Isabella had gone silent. There were no tagged posts, no group shots, no witty comments between the three friends. It was as if Kate were suddenly traveling alone. Alex couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Kate's sudden burst of activity felt like a distraction, a smoke screen to hide whatever she wasn't telling him. The fact that she still ignored his calls and messages only added to his suspicion. Sitting alone in their quiet house, Alex stared at his phone. The next day, Alex was filled with a mix of anger and heartbreak. He couldn't stand it and decided to call Megan. He could have done it earlier or at least written, but he didn't want to involve other people in his relationship. He made the call to Megan, but she didn't answer. He tried again, and finally, Megan answered. Her voice was tinged with unease, and her usual cheery tone was absent. Alex cleared his throat and said hello. Megan, it's Alex. I hope I'm not interrupting anything. There was a brief pause. Oh, Alex, no, it's fine. How are you? Alex lied, gripping the phone tightly. I just haven't heard from Kate in a while. I was wondering how you guys are doing over there. Megan has hesitated before responding. Oh, we're fine. Everything's fine. You know how it is. Traveling can be hectic. Kate probably just got caught up in all the sightseeing. Alex wasn't convinced. Megan hadn't replied in days. Everything okay? Yeah, totally fine. We've just had a few issues. We were almost robbed in Italy and the weather's been awful, especially in Germany. It's freezing here. The time difference is weird. It's hard to keep up with everything. Alex frowned. Something about Megan's. There was something about the way she spoke that didn't sit right with him. It was as if she was trying to come up with excuses, but what really caught his attention was the background noise. There were voices speaking English, the faint hum of a copier or printer, and the unmistakable ding of a microwave. It sounded like an office, not a bustling European city. Germany? Alex said, testing her. That's a long way from Paris. Are you guys still traveling together? Megan's voice grew tighter. Yeah, of course we are. There's been a lot of moving around. Look, Alex, I'd love to chat more, but I'm really busy right now. Can we talk when we get back? Before Alex could respond, Megan ended the call. He stared at the screen, his suspicion hardening into certainty. Megan wasn't in Europe anymore. The sounds in the background, her rushed answers, it all pointed to one conclusion: she had already returned, unable to sit still. Alex grabbed his keys and drove across the city to Megan's house. He parked several houses away. He waited for a while, keeping a low profile. As the hours passed, he watched her street, the minutes crawling by. Finally, as the evening shadows stretched long across the pavement, Megan's car pulled into the driveway. Alex slumped down in his seat, feeling disappointed. She was dressed casually, her hair tied back, carrying a takeout bag. She looked tired but relaxed, not like someone who had just flown in. Megan went inside her house and Alex sat there, stunned. His worst fears were being confirmed bit by bit. If Megan was back, where was Kate and why hadn't she told him? His mind was racing with questions, each more troubling than the last. He thought about confronting Megan then and there, but decided against it. There was no guarantee she'd tell him the truth, and he didn't want to tip his hand too soon. As he drove home, Alex's thoughts kept going. Today is already day 9 of their European tour, but Megan is already back. This is chaos. Kate and I are going to have a serious talk tomorrow. Kate texted Alex that she was fine and had just been busy. Alex pretended to be calm on the 11th day of her trip. Kate finally called. She answered on the first ring, masking the tension in his voice. Sorry, I haven't been in touch much. It's just been a lot. There were some problems here and honestly I've been feeling really off. I didn't want to worry you, Alex. His grip on the phone tightened, but he forced himself to sound understanding. I get it. Traveling can be exhausting. Are you okay now? Better, Kate said with a sigh. I'll tell you everything when I get back. I miss you and I'll see you soon. Okay, Alex said, though the knot in his stomach tightened. Kate was back again as promised, after her 12-day tour of Europe. Alex had spent the morning pacing the living room. His thoughts were a storm of anger, suspicion, and disbelief. He had replayed the past 2 weeks in his mind over and over, trying to make sense of Kate's behavior, the silence, the deleted video, Megan's early return. All of it pointed to one conclusion, but Alex wasn't ready to accept it. When Kate walked in, Alex stood up straight and crossed his arms. He was ready to hear what she had to say. Kate had a big smile on her face as she walked in with her suitcase. She didn't give him a chance to speak. Alex, I've missed you so much, she said, rushing to hug him. Her enthusiasm felt forced, like she was performing. She started to tell him about her trip. We tried to make the best of it, but it just wasn't the same. Alex opened his mouth to speak, but Kate kept going, her words tumbling out in a torrent. The food didn't agree with me and I felt terrible half the time, which is why I wasn't answering. I didn't want to worry you. It was all just too much. But Alex, there's something I need to tell you. She paused dramatically, placing a hand on her stomach. Alex's heart pounded as he stared at her. His worst fears were bubbling to the surface. I'm pregnant, Kate announced with a bright, almost triumphant smile. That's why everything's been so strange. That's why I've been moody and feeling sick. It's hormones. Please don't be mad at me, Alex said. He had prepared a lot of explanations, but this was not one of them. He felt his breath catch in his throat. His world tilted. You're pregnant, he said. He said, his voice barely above a whisper. Yes, Kate said, her eyes wide and expectant. I know this might be a shock, but it's wonderful news, isn't it? We're going to be parents. Alex struggled to process her words, but his suspicions refused to be silenced. Slowly, he straightened his expression and began, his voice measured. I have to be honest. I have serious suspicions that you've been unfaithful. Kate's expression darkened. In an instant, her smile vanished and was replaced by a fiery glare. She exclaimed, What nonsense are you talking about, Alex? Are you afraid to become a father? Is that it? You're scared of the responsibility, so you're inventing some ridiculous story to avoid it, aren't you? Alex replied firmly, though his voice quivered with controlled anger. I'm afraid of something else. I'm afraid this child isn't mine. That's why I think a DNA test is the best solution. I'll explain everything and make our divorce official. Kate's jaw dropped for a moment, and she looked as though she'd been slapped. Then her face twisted with indignation. Divorce? Are you serious? You're accusing me of cheating and threatening divorce just because I'm pregnant. Alex, you've lost your mind. No, Alex shot back. His tone was cold and steady. I've been paying attention. You ignored me for days. Megan lied to me and came back early. I saw the video Isabella posted, the one she. Kate, you've been hiding something this whole time. I know something happened. Kate, you're being paranoid and insecure. Alex, I thought you'd come to your senses, but clearly I was wrong. Alex took a deep breath. His resolve was unwavering. Kate, if this child is mine, I'll step up and be the father, but I won't stay in this marriage if I can't trust you. A DNA test is non-negotiable, Kate said, her face a picture of anger, panic and something else. Alex couldn't quite place it, but for the first time in their marriage he saw her falter, the cracks in her confidence showing. Kate stood in the middle of the living room, her hands trembling as she stared at Alex. Your suspicions are completely unfounded, she snapped, her voice rising with every word. Megan came back earlier, but that was my decision. I told her not to tell you because I knew you'd react like this, paranoid and overdramatic. Alex crossed his arms, his gaze cold and unyielding. The video, the one with you and other men, do you mind explaining? Kate's eyes flickered with panic, but she recovered quickly, her tone turning defensive. For God's sake, Alex, they were just some locals we met in a cafe. They were curious about America, and we talked for a couple of hours. That's all, nothing happened. Nothing happened, Alex, he repeated flatly. He held up his phone, showing the screenshot of the video. This doesn't look like a casual conversation. Kate, even if it were, this doesn't scream girls trip to me. Kate's face hardened. You have no evidence, she hissed. This is just you being afraid. Afraid of how our family is growing. You've always had a problem with change. Alex, you're scared. And now you're trying to make me the bad girl. Alex clenched his jaw. His patience was unraveling. Don't treat me like I'm stupid, he shot back. This whole trip, you've been distant, dodging my calls, ignoring my messages, and now you're spinning this fairy tale. Your behavior's been shady from the start. Kate threw her arms up in frustration. Oh my God, who did I marry, she said. Listen to yourself, Alex. You're acting like an insecure man who can't handle his wife having a little independence, and now you want to accuse me of cheating. Alex's voice was cold and steady. What I regret is trusting you when I shouldn't have. Your behavior, your lies, it's been abusive. Kate, I don't see any way out of this except divorce. Kate's face crumpled for a moment, but then her eyes lit up with fiery determination. Divorce, she said, seriously, all because I didn't coddle your fragile ego. She pointed at him, her voice trembling with anger and tears. Yes, we've been fighting, but I thought you were better. I thought you could do better than this. Alex snapped, this is either a lie to manipulate me or it's someone else's child. Take your pick. Her eyes filled with tears and she screamed, you'll regret this, Alex. You're throwing away everything we've built. She stormed to the door, dragging her suitcase behind her. Before she left, she turned back. Her voice was cold as ice. If you don't apologize by tomorrow, then you get out of this house. I'm not going to stress myself out because of you and risk this pregnancy. You've got until tomorrow. With that, she slammed the door, leaving Alex alone in the silence of their home. Alex didn't wait for morning. Without a second thought, he grabbed his things and left. He wasn't going to beg and he wasn't going to play her games anymore. The motel room was small and impersonal, but it felt like a haven compared to the house filled with tension and lies. The next day, Alex met with a lawyer to discuss the details of the past few weeks. The lawyer listened carefully and took notes. You're not going to ruin my life, Alex. I'll fight you every step of the way. Fight all you want, Alex replied coldly, but I'm done with this marriage and I'll get the truth about that child one way or another. Kate didn't back down over the next few days. She launched a campaign of chaos, flooding Alex with texts and calls. She alternated between tearful apologies and angry threats, contacting mutual friends to paint Alex as a cruel, controlling husband who couldn't. She even hinted at taking legal action to keep the house, claiming it was in the best interest of her baby. Kate's tactics in the divorce battle quickly escalated. Her family and a few of her closest friends rallied around her, providing support in ways Alex hadn't anticipated. They spread rumors about him, rumors that twisted the truth and portrayed him as a man terrified of responsibility. Whispers of Alex hiding from fatherhood began circulating in their circle. People said rumors started spreading that Alex was avoiding the reality of becoming a father. It was said that he was so ashamed of the situation that he was hiding in bushes rather than face his future. The rumors spread like wildfire and Alex couldn't escape the sting of public judgment. He was looked at with suspicion everywhere he went. People seemed to think he was the villain in his own story. Kate's family painted him as a coward and her friends rallied to her side, perpetuating the narrative that Alex was an absentee. The husband was too scared to step up for the child he'd supposedly fathered, but throughout all this, Alex never wavered in his belief that the pregnancy was either a manipulation or, worse, that the child wasn't his. The suspicions that had been festering since Kate's strange behavior during the trip to Europe had only grown, and he felt increasingly like the walls were closing in around him when the trial began. The truth Alex had feared most became clear: Kate was really pregnant. He'd hoped it would be a lie or a mistake, but the evidence didn't lie. The doctor's reports confirmed it. Kate was in fact expecting. But for Alex, this was just the beginning of a long battle. His lawyer wasted no time addressing the growing doubts about the paternity of the child. They made it clear in court that the timing of Kate's pregnancy didn't align with the pattern of their intimacy. Alex and his lawyer presented their case, questioning the timeline and pointing to the long periods of conflict and estrangement between them. They argued that Kate's unfaithfulness during her European trip meant that the child might belong to someone else. Kate's lawyer, however, had already prepared a counterattack. She had her own support network, including family members, friends, and a few well-placed witnesses. They all testified that Alex had been too distant and too emotionally unavailable. They also said that he was afraid of becoming a father. They painted him as an irresponsible and emotionally immature man who was unfit for parenthood. The tension was palpable as each side tried to tear the other down. Kate's lawyer worked hard to reinforce her version of events, portraying her as the victim, an innocent woman wronged by a man who couldn't face the reality of their future. In contrast, Alex was painted as an arrogant, neglectful spouse, someone who had shirked his duties for too long. The damage to Alex's reputation was significant, with every accusation and rumor, no matter how unfounded, seemingly sticking. Kate's supporters claimed Alex wasn't interested in being a father and was hiding behind excuses. While Alex's case for doubt regarding the child's paternity remained solid, the judge's opinion started to lean in Kate's favor. The judge was a stern man with years of experience and listened carefully but showed a distinct preference for Kate's side of the argument. Alex was frustrated and didn't seem to take the suspicions of infidelity seriously, dismissing them as baseless. He was more concerned with. The judge said that Alex hadn't proven anything concrete about the paternity of the child. The idea that Al had doubts about his unborn child wasn't enough to justify any drastic legal measures. The judge said that without definitive evidence of infidelity or a stronger reason to believe that the child is not Alex's, these are mere suspicions. He said that a DNA test is a more appropriate course of action. Alex's heart sank, but at least there was some hope. At least there was some hope. The judge agreed to allow a paternity test, but only after the child was born. The ruling felt like a small victory in the midst of a much larger battle, but Alex was prepared to wait. He knew that the paternity test would either validate his doubts or prove him wrong. Either way, it would give him the clarity he needed. As for the property dispute, the judge ruled that until the paternity test could be conducted, Alex and Kate would continue to share the home. The financial situation was complex. The judge said he wouldn't make any final decisions about dividing up the property until the child's paternity was confirmed. Kate was granted temporary access to the home and would stay in the house with Alex until the baby was born, while they waited for the test results. Alex was relieved that the court had at least acknowledged the need for the DNA test, but he knew the battle wasn't over yet. Kate's family was still spreading rumors, and her supporters were fighting for her. Alex understood that he knew he'd have to put up with a long, drawn-out fight, but as time went on, he started to realize that his life wasn't just about his marriage anymore. It was about the future of the child Kate was carrying and the fight for the truth and justice. He spent the rest of Kate's pregnancy trying to avoid her as much as possible. He knew that he had to be patient. He kept track of the days on his calendar, waiting for the birth of the child and for the truth to come out. The baby was born, and Alex felt a strange mix of relief and dread. Kate had a boy, and while the sight of the newborn stirred unexpected emotions in Alex, he kept his resolve. The DNA test was scheduled quickly after the birth. The results would finally answer the question that had haunted him for months. The results arrived 2 weeks later, and Alex's heart raced as he opened the envelope. He read the document carefully, and his suspicions were confirmed. He was not the father. The relief was overwhelming, but it was mixed with a simmering anger. He was mixed up with a simmering anger at all the fights, rumors and stress. It had all been for a child that wasn't his. He shared the results with Kate, expecting her to lash out or dismiss it. Instead, she was stunned. She stammered and her face was pale. "No, this can't be right. That's impossible. You are the father, Alex. You have to be." "I'm not," he said flatly, holding up the results. "It's all right here, Kate." Her disbelief turned to frantic insistence. She demanded a retest, convinced there had been a mistake at the lab. Her behavior almost bordered on desperation. "I don't understand," she cried. "I know it's yours. There's no way it isn't," but Alex was done. "Go ahead. Do the retest if you want, but this changes nothing." The second test, conducted weeks later, confirmed the first. The child was not Alex's. She couldn't deny it. She broke down sobbing, still insisting she had no idea how it could be true. But by then Alex had no interest in her explanations. With the DNA results in hand, Alex felt liberated. He finalized the divorce, ensuring Kate had no further claim to his life, his property or his future. But he wasn't finished yet. The months of slander and the damage to his reputation couldn't be ignored. He filed a defamation lawsuit against Kate and her family for the rumors they had spread painted him as a coward and a neglectful man. The lawsuit sent shockwaves through Kate's support network with the DNA results as evidence. Alex's case was strong, her family's lies were exposed and many of the friends who had rallied to Kate's side began distancing themselves. The legal battle took time, but Alex eventually won the case and received both a public apology and damages for the harm caused to his reputation. 2 years later, Alex had rebuilt. After everything he'd been through, Alex was finally starting to feel like his old self again. He'd moved to a new city, started a new job and even began dating again for the first time in years. One afternoon while running errands, he bumped into Isabella at a coffee shop. The sight of her brought back memories he'd rather have left behind, but Isabella seemed nervous, almost guilty. After some small talk, she said, "I owe you an apology. I should have told you the truth back then." Alex raised an eyebrow. "What truth?" Isabella sighed heavily. Looking around as though afraid someone might overhear, Kate revealed that she had a lover. She went to Europe with him, not just with us. Megan and I knew about it, but she swore us to secrecy. We didn't think it was our place to say anything. Alex's stomach turned, but he forced himself to stay calm. He wanted the trip to be about more than just a girl's vacation. Isabella admitted, her eyes flickering with shame. Kate had been seeing this guy for a while, but we didn't know she was. Although she was pregnant, Alex felt vindicated, but also frustrated. He asked, "Why are you telling me this now?" His voice was measured, as he felt terrible about it for years. Isabella said, "You didn't deserve what happened, and I just wanted to clear my conscience." Alex nodded slowly and said, "Thanks for telling me." He added, "I'm not surprised. I've already moved on." They parted ways, and Alex left the coffee shop. With a sense of closure, the truth he had waited for finally came, but it didn't weigh on him like he thought it might. Instead, it affirmed what he had known all along: he had made the right decision to leave Kate behind. For the first time, the past felt like just that, the past. Alex, free from the shadows of betrayal, looked forward to the future with clarity and hope. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe to the channel. I wish you a great mood and good luck.